the exact certainty that this event started at the T intersection or thereabouts, and it started with a shot to the face. Trayvon Martin against George Zimmerman. And then it traveled down those 30 feet or so, however they ended up there. We know that when they ended up there, that the only one who was injured at all, except for the gunshot, was George Zimmerman. And that the only other injury that Trayvon Martin had on him was what seemed to be a fight injury from a couple of scrapes of the knuckle. So, again, in my dangerous quest to prove my client's innocence beyond a reasonable doubt, now we get really into what happened. Because you can argue, and the state will, all you want, that George wanted to be a cop. And George's calls to law enforcement in the past just had some seething anger buildup. But don't assume it. Prove it, and believe it. Don't prove it, it just doesn't exist. And don't connect those dots if they're not been connected to you beyond a reasonable doubt by the state. So now let's look at what really happened that night. And let's see, the graph is done. So what were these people doing just before? Spend a moment on that to start talking about my client's absolute innocence. There's about a minute and a half, something like that, after George's call, that he was doing something. Whether or not he was wandering up to Retreat View Circle to get an address, whether or not he had that flashlight on looking around a little bit, whether, as he said to the law enforcement officer, I do want to try and figure out where he is. I do want to at least keep him a visual on him. Whatever. That was about a minute and a half. It's really interesting as well about the phone calls is what Trayvon Martin was doing. Because we haven't spent a lot of time on that yet, but the evidence is sort of compelling as to what he might have been doing. We know that he was on the phone with Rachel Gentile, and we know that that ended, we have the times, it's all in, at a precise time, and it kicked back in. And that she said he was running, which actually coincides pretty straightforward with when George said he was running. Some consistency there. So, Trayvon Martin was running, and he was running at about somewhere nearby 7:11:47. Keep that number in mind for a minute. 7:11:47. Because the altercation, according to Ms. Lauer's phone call, if you sort of look at when her phone call started, back it up to when she heard what she heard, she called at 7:16:11. Give her 30 seconds or so to have started. Right? Somewhere around there. We're going to take a break for a couple minutes because I didn't realize I've already been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. So we're going to take a break. But before we take a break, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to sit tight, and we're not going to talk. And I'll tell you when we'll talk again, okay? So try not to do much, starting now.
Let's listen.
About 4 minutes. When he said he was running, that's how long it had. So, let's talk about who was doing what and when. Chad, first witness who we talked to, said he could probably throw a football from his backyard to the T intersection. We actually don't have evidence from the state as to how far that was, but I gave you a little bit of an insight. I'm not sure who plays football around here, but nonetheless, this is where he was staying. This is where George's car was parked. This is the T intersection. And Chad could throw a football. He actually probably can't throw a football that far because it's a little bit further than that. But there are some good football players who probably could. He had 4 minutes. And he told Rachel Gentile that he was running. We sort of know, for the most part, what George is doing there. Miss it. But since this is the state's case and not mine, did they show you, tell you, explain to you, give you any insight whatsoever on what Trayvon Martin was doing 4 minutes before that fight started at the T intersection? Do you have a doubt as to what happened and what Trayvon Martin was doing and what he must have been thinking for 4 minutes? Maybe time for a break. If I might run.
Yes, you may. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please put your notepads face down on the chair, follow Deputy Jarvis down into the jury room. We will take a 15-minute recess.